Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Dr. Kim. I'm the CEO and founder of The Parentologist. It's a lifestyle and parenting brand about everything parenting with a therapeutic twist. I have my doctorate in psychology. I'm a licensed marriage family therapist. I specialize in play therapy with young children. And I also am a podcast host, and I just got my first book deal last year. So I am in the midst. I just finished the manuscript. Thank you. And it's going to be a book about how to parent utilizing play, and it's going to be very exciting. It'll be on bookshelves next year. So very excited about that and very excited to be here.
Awesome. Hello, hello.
Yeah, hello.
Should we do a little
Go ahead
intro?
and I'll have them introduce themselves, and then we'll go right into the questions.
Great. Well, I'm Dr. Zelana Montminy. I'm a behavioral scientist, author of 21 Days to Resilience and Finding Focus, coming out September of this year. I'm a mom of 3 little ones and, live in the Palisades. Will live again.
Hi, I'm Laura Gabayon, or Dr. Laura Gabayon. I'm a physician, I'm a researcher, and also the author of Common Wisdom. And I did live in the Palisades. I lost my home as well. And I don't know when we'll go back, but yeah.
Yes, it must have been very hard to go through and still go through. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. In both your books, you talk about finding focus and wisdom in times of crisis and in times of calm. And as we've been talking about, LA has undergone these life-altering and traumatic events recently with the fires for yourselves and many other people. Let's talk about what happened. What are you personally experiencing and hearing from your friends and associates, and how do we move forward and build resilience from this experience?
I think, I think what's different about this kind of loss and grief is the collective scale of it and how it touches literally everyone. Whether you lived in the Palisades or not, it was a community that a lot of people frequented, whether you have friends there or not. And there's different layers, different complexities to the loss and the grief. And I think, one of the hardest things about it is not just losing your home or your things, but your rhythms, the things that were guaranteed, that we all go through our lives and don't even think about, the streets, the sidewalks, the smells, like all of those things that as a mental health professional that anchor us in times of loss and grief, you don't have anymore. So you can't come home to anything. You can't really, it's a very strange way to lose anything. And then on top of that, layered the fact that every single one of your closest friends has lost everything too. And then it's like your kids' schools, like both my kids' schools burnt down, their library burnt down, their dance studio burnt down. So then how do you process this expansive loss? And that's been really interesting to be on both sides of, as a mom, as a human being, as a wife, mother, et cetera, and also as a doctor.
So it's funny because in 2013, my body started to fall apart. And as everyone has seen, I use a wheelchair because I developed weakness in my legs and my speech. I slur my speech. And it took me a long time. I was very left brain, Western medicine, got a master's, did research. And by 2019, finally, I realized, well, who thinks outside the box? Who doesn't want to label me? Who's not a physician? And it was the wise. And so I interviewed 60 wise individuals. And I came up with what was common amongst them, hence the name Common Wisdom. And the first element was resilience. I defined wisdom as 8 elements, and the first was resilience. And when the fires happened, I remember thinking to myself, well, the 60 people I talked to went through so much. If they did, so can I. And they really did. And I'll tell you what all the elements were: resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity. And these were the common elements, and hence the name Common Wisdom. So that's what actually got me through. But yes, as Elena said, it's a loss of so much more than just your home. It's your community. It's what brings you joy. So I think that's what brought me happiness or security, is knowing that, you know what, life goes on, take it day by day, and I kept reminding myself that there's a silver lining and things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And I kept saying that. That was really hard to do, but I kept doing it.
Yeah, it's interesting because my default is always like this optimistic outlook. It's what I study, it's what I do. I really this time needed to pause and not force like the yeah we're gonna get through this, because we are, of course we do every day, we move. But I think the constant that we all share, whether we lose or not or whatever, is that nothing is ever going to be the same, right? And that's being human. And so how do we navigate the changes, the losses? And that's really what resilience is about. It's not about pushing through, and I talk a lot about this in the book and just in the work I do. It's about sort of how do we remain flexible? How do we bend without breaking? How do we deal with the constants of life, which is change and loss, right? And that's really what it's all about.
Let me have you keep going on that topic, because you do talk about it in your book, 21 Days of Resilience. How do we practically go about doing that? So as a mental health professional, we say, we give tips on how to be resilient possibly. What does that actually look like? What are some practical things? If anyone in the audience has gone through something like yourselves and or any other traumatic experience, how do we actually physically go move past that?
I think that we're all looking for external fixes to things, and think that resilience comes from all of these hacks and all of the things. And really, it's about working on the internal skills that we need to cultivate in order to sort of persevere through all these changes. I think, just looking back at what we all experienced the past 2 months, I think when you strip away everything, what's left is our connectivity and our humanity. And I think we forget that. We're so busy, we go about our lives, we have, we use our phones as our pacifiers and scroll and numb, and we don't want to deal with discomfort, so we just kind of go to the easy things, right, that numb us all. And when you don't have that, when everything is gone, you have each other, and humanity has shown up in the most extraordinary ways. And when I think about resilience, yes, it's all the things you all know, and it's all the things that we can talk about for hours and hours, but it's also about each other. And it's about reconnecting with ourselves in a really profound way, because we're kind of walking around as shells of ourselves, right? And that's kind of what the world has been engineered to do for us at this time. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But really connecting to ourselves and each other anchors us in a way that gives us the ability to deal with change and feel loved and supported and held in that process, which honestly is the only thing that kept me going through all of this when everything else is stripped away.
I think what kept me going was, again, I'm a positive person, and it was hard to be positive, was knowing that this will somehow work out, and taking it day by day and letting all my emotions out, crying and crying and crying and being in shock and dealing with the emotions. I think that's really important for everyone. Bottling it up is not good for you. Think of it as negative energy. Let it out. I think that's only good for you. And I'm sure she would.
Yeah, I mean, when you process something, you give it less power. So when you're able to feel your emotions, I think a lot of people confuse resilience for grittiness and kind of pushing through everything. That's not resilience. That's actually kind of a mask to actually being resilient. And when people say that they're really tough and they can move through things, I always kind of question that aspect, because part of resilience is dealing with the sadness and the pain and the anger and the shock of it all. And that'll help you move through it better.
I definitely believe in the pause and the holding space for all the emotions that come in and processing it, because I think that's sometimes a big step that a lot of people miss when they're going through a healing process. So,
and by the way, if you don't pause, that's okay too, because a lot of us, our initial coping mechanism is like to just go into fight mode. Like, okay, we want solutions, we need to fix things. Our kids still need breakfast, by the way, when we lose things. Like, everything has to move, and as women, especially for the women in this room, like a lot is on our shoulders to move things, right? And to keep things going. And so that's a lot. And if we just kind of become robotic, that's okay too, don't feel ashamed or guilty about that, but also be aware. Be aware of what's inside and let it out at times when you can. If maybe it's in your car by yourself playing music really loudly. I may or may not have done that multiple times. But
That always
yes.
helps. Dr. Laura, I'm going to throw it back to you. And based on your experience with your health challenges, how did that lead you to doing your wisdom study and publishing Common Wisdom, where you scientifically identified 8 life skills that contribute to making someone wise? I would love to hear more about that.
You know, in 2013, I went to doctors, and they were so easy to put me in a box and to label me. I'm a doctor, so I can say that. And then it hit me. I'm like, well, who doesn't? The wise don't. They look outside the box. They kind of think outside the box. They kind of think of everything. And that's when I was like, well, look into wisdom. And all the information we had was anecdotal, subjective, and I'm a researcher, and that was not okay with me. I needed more objectivity. So I was like, well, I'm going to study wisdom. And then I looked into it. Only humans can identify the wise. It's only available to those who are older, really. That's where experience really helps. And it's special to or specific to the area someone lives in, and that's why I stuck to North America. And it has no association with age, with gender or race or political affiliation. And that's when I interviewed the 60 people. Now, did I know any one of them? No. I knew people who recommended them. And I kept telling them, do you know someone? And they recommended others, and they recommended others. And so, and this is why the positivity comes in. We had just finished COVID. So these individuals who were above the age of 50 were very happy to deal with internet evaluations, internet video. They were used to it. So I interviewed everyone on the internet, and it worked out. And the 8 elements, and I'll repeat them again, were resilience, kindness, and this is where the human connection really matters, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity.
I love that. Dr. Zelana, tell us about your upcoming book, Finding Focus.
Well, it's about how to reclaim our attention in a world that's engineered to take it away from us. We are in a crisis of distraction, and we are all suffering deeply in ways that we aren't even aware of. And really, the book is not about productivity like every other focus book. It's about regaining ourselves, control of ourselves, of our own lives, of our relationships, of our intentionality. And it's not just about presence, but it is about the fact that, focus is a vital life. It's just a skill. It's something that we have to cultivate. It's something that we all have always had, and yet, these companies have learned how to commodify it and seize it from us. And so we now have to take it back. And so really the book is about how to do that in a really sort of easy, digestible way. And it's really profound. It's important.
It is very important.
think.
Yes. Oh, I agree with you. Dr. Laura, I want to go back to you real quick and just talk about the top 3 life skills: resilience, positivity, and kindness, that you were going into a little bit more detail earlier in your book, and just how you found inner strength. And then you can jump in as well, because I know you're both going through this, but how you found inner strength after losing your home in the Palisades fire, and how can you help others deal with some of these great challenges using those top 3 tiers?
Well, I think the 8 elements are all related. And I think to be resilient, you have to be positive is really important. And the kindness I saw in the community of giving away things to fire victims, or my whole wardrobe right now. I mean, I have a very empty closet, but it's all what they gave us. And the kindness that people wanting to help their fellow Angelinos was just so amazing. And it really hit home. And I thought about it, I'm like, those 8 skills are really life skills. they're what will give you happiness. And those three really helped me overcome this. Now, it's something that'll be part of me forever, but it definitely helped me.
I used to study happiness with Marty Seligman, and I did a lot of research in positivity. And I think, what I've come to realize over the years, and especially after all of this, is that I think positivity is more about trust than happiness and just like this positive mindset. It's about trusting yourself, that you know that no matter what this world will dish, which it will in big ways that we're unprepared for, you're going to be okay. Like at some point you will, whatever it looks like, it's not going to look the same, but whatever it looks like, you're going to make the best, you're going to figure something out. You're going to, one foot in front, that you will persevere. So I think when we talk about positivity, I think we have to be very, very careful not to push it either on ourselves. I think, initially one of the things when you experience grief or loss or change, when people say it's going to be okay, everything, it's hard for people to stomach that, because in that moment, that's not what you need to hear. That's not what you want to hear. You want to process the way you want to process, and you don't need to be told how to do that, right? And so I think that's sort of the caution. But yes, I mean, I think you find the kindness, the humanity, when everything else is changing around you. And I don't just want to make this about the fires or grief or loss, but when everything changes, you have each other as an anchor, and that's what holds you together, and that's what held me together and my children and all the things. So I think those are all really important threads.
Yes, very much so. We're going to open up for maybe one or two questions, but I just want to remind you that Dr. Laura has a new online wisdom IQ test that's coming out. Did you want to chat about that real briefly? And then
I published this in March, and then I wrote a journal in December, but we're working on a wisdom IQ test. I think because wisdom is not really relevant to many. I didn't know what it was, and most people would not care to know or understand. So the wisdom IQ test is more of how do you create more meaning in your life? How are the 8 elements more relevant? Or which ones can you work on? Or which ones do you know really well? So that's what the goal is. So yes, that's what I'm working on now.
sounds like a great quiz. And then Dr. Zelana, you have your new book coming out.
Yeah.
Remind us again, Finding Focus.
Finding Focus, Owning Your Attention in This Age of Distraction. It's already pre-sales on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. And then I have a ton of resources on my website, free resources that you can access, drzelana.com, and then follow me on socials for other things and resources and how to cope and how to find focus in these days.
Yes.
Days and ages.
There's a lot of days going on right now. Does anyone have one or two quick questions? And the speakers will be to the side here when we're done, and they can answer some questions if we go over it. Yes.
No, it was in order. I would say majority were resilient, and spirituality was number 4. So it wasn't as high as resilience, but it was there. So a lot of them did believe that there was something. They didn't know what, but there was something bigger than themselves. And oh, by the way, I know you talked about it, but my website is lauragabayon.com.
Perfect. Any other questions at this moment? Okay, if you have anything, oh yes.
I just kept reminding myself that I can do hard things, that I can, having other things to have to move forward for. Like I have children, I have, a career I love, I have those little anchors, those things that we have to do. And I think I really allowed myself moments to feel whatever I was going through and not force things. I think that's really important. And I was also extremely honest about, I no longer was like how are you? Don't ask me that question. Or that's a ridiculous question to ask me right now. Like literally I would say that and I didn't do it in a mean way. It was just, I was really honest, and it sort of gave me a little bit of like, oh, okay, pep in my step, right? And friends wanted to talk, and I would be honest and say, sorry, I'm not processing yet. This is not like my time to process. If you want to help me with something specific, go for it. Buy me groceries. Great. Thank you so much. But don't just say, oh, I'm so sorry. Let's talk through this. No, I'm not there yet. So just be really honest with yourself about your needs, and then advocate for them too, I think is important.
For me, I think it's more of knowing things, not knowing how, but knowing things will work out, and then taking it one day at a time, and just and attending to your own needs, being kind to yourself. Like if you want to watch a show for 15 minutes, half an hour, wherever it is, watch a show. If you want to meditate, if you want to listen to music, be kind to yourself, because that's the only way it's telling yourself, you know what, I've gone through so much, I deserve this. And just taking it one day at a time.
I love that. Great practical advice to end on. We're going to have to pause you there, but we are going to be on the side of the stage. So if you have any questions for anyone, we'll be there. Thank you again for joining us.
I am giving away my journal. I don't have a lot, but I know I have some journals that I can give away as well. And the journal is just like 1/20th of the book, but I have journals to give away too. So if you want to come, you can get them.